Hello, everyone. We would like to welcome you to Team CERN. I am Jonette Biebesheimer, biochemist and lead research scientist for Dr. EMF.
And I am Dr. Russell John Court, lead clinician of Dr. EMF. We have been a part of MicroDaily for the past 7 years, and we've had the honor to have worked closely with Dr. Prasad.
Together, we are your leaders of Team CERN and are happy to assist you in any way we can. We will be hosting weekly calls and trainings to help educate and equip you in building your business.
But first, I must read a protective disclaimer. These statements and comments have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This information is for educational purposes only. Engage, the micronutrient company, does not claim that our products diagnose, treat, cure, heal, or prevent any disease or injury. Engage's products do, however, address the deficiencies and provide our bodies with the nutrition we are lacking.
All right, welcome everybody to the Optimal Longevity Series. We've been waiting for this for a while, Dr. Court.
Exciting.
And this is a 3-part series on EMF radiation. So tonight's call is going to be on EMF radiation basics. And my name is Jonette Biebesheimer, and I'm a biochemist. I'm also an environmental scientist, which you'll learn a little bit more about tonight, and lead researcher of Dr. EMF. And this is my co-host, Dr. Russ Court, and he is an author, speaker, lead clinician of Dr. EMF, been practicing medicine for over 40 years, focuses on functional neurology and brain rehab. He's also on the faculty of the Sleep Balance Academy, and he has been highlighted in Epoch Times for a pioneering clinic in digital wellness. So welcome, Dr. Court.
Thank you.
All right. And now we need to highlight our distinguished special guest, Dr. Prasad. Welcome, Dr. Prasad.
Thank you, Jonette. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. And Jeff, if you would not mind pulling up Dr. Prasad's accolades.
What shall I? Did you ask? Oh, okay. Here it is.
Yes. So Jeff is pulling up. There you go. Thank you so much. So, wow, that's really small. I'm going to have to scooch in there.
Just tell verbally.
All right. So Dr. Prasad has been a professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine for over 30 years, and he was the director of vitamins and cancer research. He is the former president and of the International Society of Cancer and Nutrition from 1992 to the year 2000. He is a member of the British Society of Medicine, London. And in 1982, he was on the Nobel Prize nominating committee for candidates in medicine. He is the world's first radiation biologist, which is incredible. And he was awarded 7 U.S. patents on micronutrients. He discovered the anti-cancer potency of vitamin E succinate. He discovered that butyric acid, that small fatty acid formed by fermentation of fibers in the gut, is an anti-cancer agent. His works are incredible. He is an author and co-author of over 32 books and published over 250 peer-reviewed articles in very prestigious journals such as Nature on radiation, micronutrients, neurodegeneration, diabetes, and cancer. And
that's not it.
No.
I mean, 5 other patents in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You just finished your 33rd textbook. You're working on your 34th textbook. And
Yeah.
How many papers are you writing currently?
Well, currently I was thinking to write exactly on that issue, is that there is a distinction between a age-related memory loss and Alzheimer's dementia or vascular dementia. Symptoms are different, pathology is different, and distinctions are being made, and how we can approach to prevent it, at least the age-related memory loss, but also how we can improve the treatment of Alzheimer's disease dementia or vascular dementia or frontal temporal Parkinson's dementia. So there are 4 or 5 different types of dementia. And so that's my plan to write a book no, not book, articles, because nobody has addressed this distinction between the age-related dementia that may not develop to Alzheimer's dementia at all. Actually, the statistics suggest that only 1% eventually develop it, so it is very insignificant. So we can reverse it or we can prevent it both. And of course, once you have dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, then you have to worry about how we can improve the treatment. And that's why we have approached a comprehensive approach of how we can improve the treatment, which are currently used. And most commonly used is the cholinesterase inhibitor, and also that antagonistic of glutamate are used. And most recently, they produced the antibody against beta amyloid, and none of them is working very well because they do not address the main cause why neurons are dying, namely oxidative stress and neuroinflammation. And our approach is full. Our approach is comprehensive. Not only we use macronutrient mixture, but also now we know that it is a defect in a glucose metabolism, in other words, a defect in insulin receptor in the brain. People didn't know that brain has also insulin receptors. And if the insulin receptor in brain is impaired by oxidative damage, for example, and then glucose metabolism is, there is no energy generation, and then develop dementia. Is very strong linkage between poor energy production by the brain and development of dementia. And so you have to address that issue too. And then you have, of course, collagen peptides, which, as you know, that when you give collagen peptides, the brain makes number 6, type 6 collagen, which binds with the beta amyloid and then make them inactive. So it is better than the antibody against amyloid, which removes amyloid, but it doesn't prevent the production of amyloid. But here, no matter how much you are producing it, if they are there, the collagen 6, type 6, it will inactivate it and cell will never die. So we have made, of course, probiotics is there. So we have made a comprehensive approach that nobody has looked for it. They look for one approach. Like in the beginning, we just had a micronutrient approach. But I did more research, more thinking. Then I said, no, you have to have a comprehensive approach. That is what I'm doing right now.
So this is a great
old book. So it is good for a beginner. It is good for a beginner, but that's not an all-comprehensive one. New one.
Right. This is a book that you actually wrote a couple years ago, but it was published. Your dementia and memory loss book, which is a good overview for healthcare practitioners.
Yes, it's very good overview.
Right. Sorry, Dr. Court. But this is, with the Optimal Longevity series. And so dementia in this book, Dr. Prasad, being the first radiation biologist in the world, actually cited for the first time in all of his research and papers that dementia is, that EMF exposure is a risk factor for dementia. Yes. So I want to segue this, that we already have this book, but now he's saying there's current research out, even since this was just published, that he's working on that as well.
Yes.
And
so that will be up-to-date version of that, but that's good basic information.
It is. And so for those people that are on the line, a lot of people may not have known this, but that EMF exposure is a risk factor for dementia.
Yes, it's a very big factor,
Well, we have a surprise tonight.
We have a great surprise tonight. So with that, Dr. Prasad, for those people that don't know you on the call, how many years young are you?
I'm only 88 plus. 88 plus, now 5 months. 89.
I'm certainly happy that you're not slowing down in your retirement.
I don't know. I have nothing else to do. So really, I enjoy it. Plus, I can't play tennis anymore. That was my favorite game. And so I watch tennis, but for an hour or so. But most of the time here, like I'm sitting with you on my computer, thinking, writing, researching. So that's how I enjoy
tennis. Table tennis. I bet you that you have.
No. Real tennis. I was playing competitive tennis. Yeah, and also table tennis too. I was fanatic sports person.
Well, we have to get rolling. We have some really exciting things to bring
So-
your way tonight.
Okay, I'm looking forward.
On at the bit.
Yeah.
We're so excited.
So this is the
Okay.
first part of a 3-part series on EMF radiation. And tonight's going to be an overview. And so Jeff, if you would not mind playing that video clip for everyone. Actually, we've actually met Dr.
Yep.
Cindy Russell. We've had continuing education with her. She's a Stanford trained medical doctor. And this is a third party. This is someone that's an expert of EMF and environmental toxins. And she's just going to share with us the mechanisms of action and what she's seeing out there. And then we'll talk about some strategies that Dr. Prasad has developed. So Jeff, if you would not mind playing that video, we'd appreciate it.
Yep, here we go.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm Dr. Cindy Russell, Executive Director for Physicians for Safe Technology, and I'm here to give you a brief overview of the health effects of wireless technology. I'm a Stanford-trained physician, and I've studied environmental toxins through our local county medical association and the California Medical Association for over 25 years. I've worked on pesticides, flame retardants, bisphenol A, fracking chemicals, and other toxic exposures that affect our health. Most recently, I've been working on wireless technology. We're using more and more wireless devices, thus we're increasingly exposed to microwave radio frequency radiation, which surrounds us now on all sides. Physicians are becoming more concerned about the health effects of this technology. And in the last 2 years, I've spoken at 3 physician conferences for continuing medical education on the health effects of wireless technology. How did I become interested in this topic? Well, when I learned of a proposal to place a cell tower in my daughter's school 10 years ago, I dove into the research, and I found out there were valid health concerns, and it was not such a good idea to put a cell tower in a school setting. What I also learned was that wireless radiation passes through our bodies and all organisms. Wireless radiation is absorbed by anything that contains water, and we're 70% water. Note, you can't cook dry rice in a microwave oven. Wireless radiation can interfere with our cellular biological processes that are not heat related. And also we get exposed to a mix of artificial pulsed electromagnetic radiation frequencies at the same time. And this is very similar to the mix of chemical toxins that we're regularly exposed to, and we cannot hear, see, or taste. And we're also electrical beings. Our brain, heart, nervous system, and endocrine system work through tiny electrical impulses that affect our molecules and membranes. It makes sense that electromagnetic radiation could harm us. There are 7 decades of military and scientific studies that indicate wireless technology is biologically active and acts as an environmental and human toxin. And the effects are variable and they're nonlinear. There are differences in our genetics, our nutrition, toxic exposures that produce differences in how our bodies and our biology react to these wireless exposures. Is there a biologic mechanism of harm? People ask. Well, yes, it's oxidation. And the mechanism of toxicity of wireless frequencies is similar to that of many chemical toxins we're exposed to, including ionizing radiation. It is oxidation. 261 studies show that wireless radiation causes oxidative stress, which in turn causes inflammation. We know oxidative stress damages DNA, lipids, proteins, and membranes. Oxidative stress causes injury to nerve cells, heart cells, the immune system, the reproductive system, and the nervous system. Oxidative stress leads to inflammation and a host of chronic human diseases we commonly see now. There are both acute and long-term health effects, and acute effects occur shortly after exposure to a wireless device or a nearby cell tower. It's like an allergy. Those who are sensitive experience neurologic symptoms such as headaches, nausea, dizziness, irritability, memory loss, heart palpitations, insomnia, and fatigue. It's estimated that up to 30% of people are mildly electrosensitive, up to 5% of people have moderate symptoms, and 0.65% of the population are unable to work or be around wireless devices at all. And that adds up to about 2 million Americans. We know occupational exposure to military radar, which is the same type of telecommunications we use now, causes these same neurologic symptoms. Firefighters developed many of these symptoms when cell towers were placed on or near their fire stations. And this led the International Association of Firefighters to develop a policy resolution in 2004 to successfully fight cell towers on fire stations. This is now codified in 2 California telecom bills, AB 57 and AB 537, that exempt fire stations from having cell towers due to health effects on firefighters. You may have heard about the Havana syndrome. There are reports of incapacitating neurologic symptoms that were experienced in American and Canadian government officials stationed in Cuba in 2016, as well as China in 2018. More recently, similar attacks have been reported in Austria and Arlington, Virginia. The National Academy of Sciences report in 2020 concluded the symptoms are due to pulsed microwave radiation. U.S. civilians can get Havana syndrome too. This occurs when cell towers are placed close to homes or if someone is electrosensitive and near wireless devices. I'm working with a town back east fighting a cell tower placed without proper notification. When the cell tower was turned on, 17 people living in the neighborhood near the cell tower developed the same neurologic symptoms. People are now moving out and deciding to sell their homes if they can. The long-term effects of a toxin, be it wireless technology or chemicals, occurs over time because the biologic damage is cumulative. Studies show that wireless radiation is associated with cancer, reproductive failure, including miscarriage, neurologic harms such as ADHD, cognitive decline, and memory impairment. Dr. Lee, a Kaiser physician and researcher, studied 913 pregnant women and measured everyday exposures to electromagnetic radiation. And they found a threefold increase in miscarriage in the highest tier of everyday exposures. It was an excellent study and without anyone refuting the results of the methodology. A review of 8 of 10 studies showed that neurobehavioral symptoms or cancer occurred in populations living in distances less than 500 meters or about 1,640 feet from cell tower base stations. A 10-year study of the third largest city in Brazil by the health department showed that within 1,600 feet of a cell tower, the rate of cancer increased by up to 17-fold, and those power density readings were well within the FCC guidelines. Egger looked at a town in Bavaria and published his findings that showed a threefold increase in malignancies if you lived 5 years near a cell tower that was within 400 meters or about 1,200 feet. Mayo in 2018 published his research examining the changes in neurologic function of students in 2 schools that had adjacent cell towers. One tower had 5 times higher power density, but all within the FCC guidelines. He showed significant cognitive decline in the students near the higher powered cell tower after 2 years. Wildlife and insects are even more sensitive than we are and also adversely affected by cell towers. The FCC standards are outdated. They're based on short-term thermal heating, not on long-term biological effects. The FCC is being sued for its failure to reevaluate the health effects of wireless radio frequency radiation. We're still in a large experiment. We want to reap the benefits of technology while preserving human health and environmental health and well-being. Let's take precautions. Thank you.
Woo.
That's phenomenal.
Oh,
That's
so
fantastic.
that's so personal. It's
Yeah,
personal.
not only personal, but the data that's presented. And then I didn't know, probably Dr. Coate was aware of those information, but still it is nice to know from some independent doctor who has studied this. And so that's what literature says, and what she was saying is beautifully presented for a layman, even for a layman, not also professional for both. And I was impressed.
Oh,
So the question remains that, and then of course Dr. Coate has the answer of that we can't get away with this. I mean, that's fact of life. Some of those extreme cases, like she mentioned, 2 million people who are very serious, then they can stay away and do something else and different type of job or whatever. But for most people, the question is how to reduce. You can't eliminate it, but the question is how to reduce the biological damage in your system. The central issue. And we have a few things that Dr. Coate can elaborate with that we can do it. And it is a matter of spreading this knowledge that you cannot get away from the computer. I work 3, 4, at least 5 hours a day in a computer. I can't, because first I enjoy it, also important for the job, for my job. And so you can't. But what you can do to reduce the damage, and that's what I do every day. And that's why thus far I have not shown any. Well, I forget once in a while some of the name and things, but for all practical purpose, still I'm maintaining my cognitive function very close to maybe 90% of normal.
So do you use a laptop, Dr. Prasad?
Yeah, that's what I'm eating right now.
So one of the things that we can do to reduce it using a laptop is unplug it and run on battery, and then take a break and step away and plug it back in and recharge it. Because if we have it unplugged, we're no longer that circuit, and that's decreasing the electric field.
I think that's very good. I will do that. But another thing is very important to know that is not very apparent when you read the literature. Like electrical, electromagnetic field is a combination of electrical and magnetic field. Electrical field you can block by some kind of physical, wall or some kind of, you can do it. But magnetic field cannot be blocked by any means. It enters in your brain. And brain has all electrical circuit. And presence of magnetic, they will be all weird. That's one thing that it does it. And also man-made, not the nature-made, man-made electromagnetic radiation for somehow creates a vibration of those molecules which has a charged particles. And when they are vibrating it, they become very sensitive to a stress, of any physical stress. And therefore you suffer more damage. And so, go ahead.
I actually have a slide on that. And so, Jeff, if you would not mind pulling up the slide, if you could can you take us off Spotlight so we can pull up the slide so that we can actually get a visual of what that technology we're talking about?
And you haven't been given any notes on this, Dr. Prasad. This is just a conversation between three scientists, and this is
sorry.
I love this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Here he's pulling, I think he's pulling it up right now. All right, you guys, we really want to step through and explain some myths and stuff out there. And Dr. Prasad is the first radiation biologist in the world. So we're going to really talk about this. So we all live in a sea of man-made, non-native EMF radiation coming from wires, okay, through the air and from our screens. And so there are, for everyone here, Dr. Prasad was talking about the electromagnetic fields that you can't protect that, but isn't it interesting when you look at all the ways, Dr. Prasad, that the man-made, non-native EMF radiation is affecting us? And we have RF radiation, which is Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular, 5G, your microwave. We have wires that are electric radiation, which could be from the circuit in your bedroom. When you plug in the lamp in the wall, it creates an electric field. And so we always recommend to unplug anything from your bedroom wall and take all of your cell phones out of it and just create a sleep sanctuary. And that's called extremely low frequency EMF. And then we have the screen time, which we're all on. And that's why Dr. Court and I wear these blue blocking glasses, is because we measure the eyes. And so especially at night, we really want to protect our eyes because of all the blue. And I think this is, for everybody on here, kind of helps you. What is electromagnetic frequency radiation? Here is a good overview of that for you to get to see. Okay.
And we'll be talking a lot more about this in the next couple of
weeks.
Sessions.
Yeah, but this is a good overview.
It's a great overview.
And if you don't know, this would be a good one to take a picture of. And then Jeff, why don't you go ahead and take that off, please? And so Dr. Prasad, I wanted to back up 8 years ago when we were having a conversation when Dr. Court and I were seeing a lot of concussion-like symptoms in the clinic, but they were not necessarily from a car accident or from a trauma. And we really felt that the data was starting to, we were seeing clear patterns with the EEG and sleep data, cognition, balance, vision processing. And I presented that to you. And I've read a lot of your textbooks and the work that you've done on ionizing radiation. And I think it's really important for people to understand, like, the delineation between non-ionizing radiation with the EMF and then the ionizing radiation, which you've studied for a very long time, like Dr. Cord X-rays,
Yeah.
but one of the things I want to make clear for everybody on here, we do have strategies we're going to talk about that are safe, and 24 million in research to get there. But I want you guys to know that my graduate work is in EMF, is in environmental science and policy. And so I've worked for DOE, DOD, and the state as an inspector, and I know environmental law. And I want everyone to know on here that there is no oversight over the FCC for safety standards.
Yep.
No.
Nothing.
And so currently they can put a cell tower anywhere that they want up to 300 gigahertz. It's not there yet, but that is what we need to lean forward. And that is 300 gigahertz is 1/3 of an X-ray. And
I know. 10G will be that one, isn't it? I see advertisement about 10G. 5G, we are not even over as yet 5G. Now
Right.
they're thinking about installing 10G.
and so I
Well,
think
we don't know what it is either. I mean,
No, I mean, they're just trying to educate public or
right.
of its benefit.
4G and 5G both run at 2.4 gigahertz. And recently, we had a guest on and we were speaking to him and he said, so does your microwave.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really shocking to me. I hadn't thought of that because I don't use a microwave, but it's the same gigahertz.
Right.
So when we put it up to our head,
Right. But I wanted to back up that we need to make aware, this first one is about awareness, that there's an
Yes.
issue and there's a lot of peer-reviewed work. And
Yes.
when I presented this to Dr. Prasad, his work on ionizing radiation is second to none. And his textbooks are very detailed. And then we had this discussion and you said to me there wasn't enough data at that time, 7-8 years ago, even
Yeah.
though we were seeing patterns.
Yes.
And then we presented you with the Havana syndrome, which we will be talking about in the third part of our series, and other data. And Dr. Prasad, tell me what was the determining the factors that you decided to put your name as the first radiation biologist in the world, PhD, to actually say that the EMF is causing, these issues?
Yeah. No, first, if you look at the literatures that and compare with ionizing radiation, we knew ionizing radiation caused cancer and all this kind of stuff. But one major difference between non-ionizing and ionizing radiation, especially EMF radiation, is that it has hypersensitivity that X-ray radiation doesn't produce. It produces a late effect in brain defect or cognitive dysfunction. And so, so the reason I thought that one thing is very similar, late effect is very similar. Why? Because EMF radiation also produces free radicals damage. And if you are exposed to every day, free radical damage now cannot be repaired. So then chronic inflammation sets in motion. And then that is responsible for later on incidence of cancer or reproductive failure or miscarriage. That she mentioned many other things. Those are the late effect. But acute effect is two. One is the production of free radical. And second, disturbance in your brain because magnetic field and also because vibration of the molecule that ionizing radiation doesn't cause it. And so this, in this way, this is unique. And so at any doses, they produce late effects similar to the EMF radiation, but not the hypersensitivity. And so, and that's why, as maybe that what the treatment we will discuss later on, but this is unique of EMF radiation that it penetrates your brain, messed up the electrical communication between neuron, and also vibrates the molecules that are charged and make them more quickly damaged or quickly dysfunctional. And maybe it is short term because once you get away, then again, your brain circuit is returned to normal, so you don't feel it. And so this is unique of EMF radiation. People have to be aware of and how to take care of yourself. And we will discuss later on how to take care of yourself.
But do we know on that, Dr. Prasad, because I was listening to you and we haven't discussed this, when we look at the damage, like for instance, in the X-ray study that you did, where we showed with one CT exposure that the damage continued for 4 or 5 hours in the lymphocytes.
Yeah, the damage is there, but these go ahead.
What are we looking at when we're wearing earbuds in the gym and we're wearing those when we're driving and we're working out and we're sending Wi-Fi radiation through the brainstem? Are we looking at the same type of thing where we're having a 4 to 5 hour, latent effect as a result of the radiation that we have against our heads, against our hearts, and in our pockets?
Yeah, but the thing is, EMF radiation, it will cause DNA damage, also maybe some damage, but they will repair it. So those things are continuous phenomena, then affects the late effect, the cancer and some other late adverse health effect. But acute effect on hypersensitivity, that question has to be addressed first. And then, of course, while you're addressing that question, late effect will also get attenuated.
We have a lot of work to do, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah, of course. No, but this is very important to remember that. And I'm glad you told me, because I never thought of that. And that from now on, I will just disconnect it and work on the battery, at least minimize the exposure. I mean, that's all you can do. Try to minimize and then take some other issue. So that's a physical protection. And another thing I want to mention, that sometimes somebody recommends a physical protection on your cell phone, like some kind of a metallic. That's more dangerous, because that means for your cell phone to work, he has to drive much more energy so that you can see it. And therefore, you will be exposed to higher doses. So this is a counterproductive than having a physical protection. And you think it is protecting. Physical protection is all right for X-ray and gamma ray, but not for electromagnetic radiation, because you cannot block it.
Well, we were actually at a conference where Dr. Cindy Russell was. It was an international conference for physicians on EMF hypersensitivity before COVID. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there, they're telling everybody, please shut off your cell phones. And this is an educated crowd. This lady next to Dr. Court just had this thing on the back of her phone, and she's just shopping. And it's his arm. Dr. Court has EMF hypersensitivity. And he's looking at me and he goes, ma'am, would you mind please shutting off your cell phone? And she goes, well, I have this thing on it, this little thing. And he goes, it doesn't work.
I can feel it. It's not working.
It's not working. But I want people to know there's a lot of marketing out there. People are taking advantage.
That's right. That's right.
I want you to know we really do care. And we've done this work for 8 years. So we've really been under the radar. And we're really excited tonight to be able to share these strategies in this first of the 3-part series. And one of the things I was most excited about, Dr. Prasad, is when Dr. Cindy Russell, who is very well respected in her field with environmental toxins and EMF, said the mechanism of action is oxidative stress. Period. Yeah. Okay, which leads to inflammation. And for those people on this call that don't know, Dr. Prasad, first product that we used and that we had in this company, it's all we had, has 24 million in research. It has 14 clinical studies, which Dr. Court's going to go over a couple of them that I think dovetailed into what she said about the firefighters and NASA and, but I lost my train of thought.
Might be your phone.
It could be my phone. That was funny, Dr. Court. But let me see, the oxidative stress. So the one product we have is actually proven to reduce oxidative stress
right.
and inflammation simultaneously. It is the only product in the world that does that. And so we have a third party, right, Stanford educated MD that says this is the root cause. So for everybody on this call right now, we have a product that is safe. It has 24 million in research, and it was actually designed for our military to protect them from ionizing radiation. Okay.
Yeah.
Biowarfare. Dr. Court has the original one that went into their BDUs. So you can see that. It actually
Put in a
went-
pocket while you're traveling away from your base camp.
Yeah, so the three things that was made for was ionizing radiation, biological warfare, and extreme
Mhm.
stress. And so this one formulation that Dr. Prasad has worked really hard at, he had to go to Congress numerous times. Why don't we walk through a little bit of the firefighter study? I thought it was interesting
Yeah.
that you also did a firefighter study. And once you walk them through that one, because you know that study pretty well, and for everybody on here to get to hear,
We're talking about the Boone study.
yeah, the firefighter study.
Well, I love that study because some of the equipment we use, it's monitored with Dr. Boone. Some of the standards
Exactly, Boone.
with Dr. Boone, who was you worked with him directly. In
Yes.
Yeah, and we do work with an EEG that uses some of Dr. Boone's reporting. So go ahead.
So from what I understand in the study that firefighters, and I worked as a firefighter, I did emergency medicine for a decade, and we're exposed to terrible toxins.
Mhm.
You know, we never go into a fire and pull our respirator off and just go,
Yeah.
we're exposed to so many bad things. And so in the study, they measured the carotid intima, or the inside of the carotid artery. And
Right.
how long did that study go on for, Dr. Prasad?
1 year. 1 year.
In 1 year, there was a 50% improvement or a reduction of the swelling in the carotid artery. Is that correct?
No, it's 100%. There was no plaque. There is no plaque.
No
In it.
plaque.
No plaque. And those who were on a Lipitor type of drug, simvastatin, which is a little earlier Lipitor, and they could not prevent this. They developed the plaque. Those people who were taking a Lipitor, they could not, normal rate of the plaque formation, they could not prevent it. But at the end of it, at 6 months, there was partial, but after 1 year, 100%. And you may have seen picture, or maybe I will send you, but it is remarkable. That's the first evidence that antioxidant, we don't know which one is doing it, but micronutrient that we have can also modify tissue, because preventing is a kind of a tissue modification. And so this was very, for me, it was unexpected results.
Hmm. How about the NASA one? Because they brought up NASA. I thought it was interesting when she talked really fast. So we'll be showing it next in 2 weeks as well. Will you go over some of the NASA study, or any of the studies that you think that are important as well?
Well, I think that, I don't know the NASA study well enough to bring it up, but I was thinking about the concussion study.
Yes.
When we look at the
Veterans.
Mhm. So with the concussion study, as an athlete, I sustained several concussions, and I work with a lot of athletes that have concussions, as well as soldiers that have concussions. And it's a very delicate road to walk. But so effective was the product in the double-blind placebo-controlled study that it was 6 weeks to 2 months?
12 weeks a study.
12 weeks. But when was it that the blind was broken? That the nurses...
At the end of 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
The nurses who were doing it, telling you that, I don't know, even after a week, that some patients are doing a little better than the other. And they have a quantitative measurement of all those balancing problem, dizziness, and so on. There are a whole bunch of 7, 8 various parameters. And so, but he didn't tell her because she didn't know. But when they open it and they compare it, there was a dramatic improvement compared to a standard therapy group alone.
Just yesterday, I was invited. We're in Atlanta right now, outside of Atlanta. And I was invited to go and speak with a group of doctors last night, as well as work with another doctor. And he had, we're solving. He had a patient that he wanted me to look at who has a electric car and has 5 companies and is completely surrounded. And when we measured his heart rate variability, which is becoming a great standard for a quick assessment of your overall health status, he was at 17%. And they had tried everything with him. And so I said, well, how about we try this? And I took 3 capsules and dissolved them under his tongue, and then proceeded to talk to him about what we have to offer and why this needs to be in his body. Within 25 minutes, I retested him, and he tested at 68%. So
Wow.
from 17% to
That's
68%. So
That's
I have to tell you that when he got up, he said, I want it. And, and he was instantly enrolled. But the room was full of people who were like, do me, do me, do me. So I got back about 12:30 this morning because I was working so hard last night.
Good for you. Good for you.
So,
I mean, that's amazing. That's a really amazing results.
Well,
And-
it's amazing because it's in just minutes.
mhm.
Yeah.
Have you-
I mean, when you
talked
tell this
about
kind of a story, nobody will believe that a micronutrient can do it.
Mhm.
You know,
And-
you and I have talked about this before. Did you ever think that we would be able to prove in 25 minutes the
No.
efficacy of your formula? I mean, it's one
No.
thing to say 12 weeks. It's another thing to say a year, but we're talking 25 minutes.
That's amazing.
And
That's
you know,
amazing.
we measure many things, but we're really finding, Dr. Prasad, like concussion-like symptoms. The symptoms are dizziness, headache, insomnia, agitation, anxiety. And so we'll talk more about that next week, because we're going to have some testimonials and case studies and
Yes.
resilient. But I think what's really important here is that one of the 2 measures that I think 3 is really HRV, Dr. Prasad, and then pupillary reflex are connected. So
we're going to talk about that next time.
So those 2 tests are really showing a lot about blue light toxicity in people that have too much exposure to EMF. But also, because we are certified in sleep, we're really seeing that sleep is when we heal, and that's measuring the brain waves at night. And so what a big difference your suite of products are helping people sleep and getting restorative sleep, but also making it a sanctuary. Because right now, what we're seeing is that people don't have a lot of hope, and they just talk about exposure. And so for the first time ever in the world, there is a product that is safe and proven to actually reduce oxidative stress and inflammation simultaneously. That's your product.
And it's immediate. I don't believe with the 2 million people. I think that the number is much, much higher. But those of us that feel this, I mean, we're all exposed to it. It's like an X-ray always works. Non-ionizing radiation always damages cells. It's time, distance, shielding.
Right.
But when you feel it, when you feel the difference in 25 minutes, and I will
Unbelievable.
tell you, when I'm on a computer,
Give me 5 people like that data, I will publish it in a case report, and this is observational study where you can put not in your name, but also the product that you were using it. Because that's a very quantitative measurement of certain function of the heart.
well,
That is
we're going
phenomenal.
to cover a lot of amazing things in the next 2.
No, but another thing I want to mention is that I just read a Beth. You know Beth? I can't pronounce. Yeah, I've read her book and I wrote a review, but I cannot send her because whenever I try to send my review on her book, it comes back. So I don't know why. But in any case, she's a fascinating story of EMF, how it happens and how miserable she was. And now she's normal or close to normal. I don't know. I have not talked to her personally. I just read the book.
But Dr. Prasad, next week, we're going to get to actually hear Dr. Court's story and Beth's story. And both of them now are resilient. And they
I mean, that's the thing. This is very important in her book. She never gave up.
She
never gave up. And she's listening right now. She's listening.
And so congratulations, Beth, if you are there. I have written a review on your book, but I can't send it because it comes back whenever I do it. So, But anyway, so the important thing is that, the inspiring of that book, inspiration, is that tell you whether, you're in academic field, sports, any field, or health, you never give up. Then you are then you will succeed eventually. But if you give up, then that's it in any area.
You know what? That reminds me of a certain young Indian man that I know that spoke and gave lectures at the Department of Defense and many lectures on nutrition, and then went to Congress and spoke at the House and the Senate 17 times, which meant that he had the door closed on him about 36 times.
Yes.
And then the 17th time they said, as a private citizen, we're going to give you $12.5 million and another $11 million in private funding. And that is the story of never giving up. And we are so grateful. I speak for all of us in the world that feel the fields and healthcare that you never gave up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's true. And also that, still, it is so simple procedure when you go for diagnostic X-ray, say, for example, CT scan, breast cancer examination. Not many people take micronutrient before going and after coming back. I don't know how to, I talk to many radiologists, they say it's too complicated. Who will pay for it? Patient doesn't want to pay, the insurance company would not pay for it. So
we're working on that with the protocol that we developed. We're working on that and putting it into the dental offices and the chiropractic offices.
Yeah, I mean, this is very important. It is so important. Even dental X-ray, I told you that one dental X-ray, somebody took a biopsy of this epithelial cell from the gums and looked at it. There were a lot of chromosomal damage. Just for one, and the doctor will say, we don't know what will be the late consequences, but could repair it. You have only one time. But if you are doing frequently, many cases we do every 6 months, then you have
now these dentists, Dr. Prasad, they're using a cone beam CT scan that goes around the brain.
Yeah.
And that's the part that this is the part where I never give up, because it's so critical for our children with a much less developed skull. That CT exam, 5 to 6 hours or longer, because we really can't do testing on children. But we know that the lymphocytes are damaged for 5 to 6 hours in an adult.
And with that one also, you have a scattered radiation. So, even though sometimes they shield it, but your thyroid get affected as well. You can't shield the whole neck. You just shield the outer part of the body. So, and plus brain, you can't shield the brain either. So
more about that next time.
I think this is a very good start. And I think the way you are doing, Dr. Cote, is amazing, that you will have a lot of good people improve their health and prevent their from any ill health that they might encounter in future because of ionizing radiation or by EMF. And that applies to even if you go for sunbathing, that's a very dangerous thing. And it can increase the risk of melanoma. But if you take some of these precautions, then you can get protected. At least part of them get protected, You always apply a screen, but, ionizing UV radiation can penetrate your, at least damage some, not as much as without it. So we can do a lot of things for a lot of people, just simple procedure. Taking micronutrients.
And our most fragile, which are our children and our seniors.
Yes, because people are doing at children's, like when you go to school lunch, they look terrible the way they describe their school lunch. and so if nothing else, you can give a couple of our gummy type of some micronutrient, then they can, at least they would not develop deficiency. But it is impossible to put in a school. I don't know how, until you get them free, it is not possible.
Well, we're going to start, I'm getting close to wrapping up, but I want to summarize where we've been. And just know that 8 years ago, when I talked with you face to face, and I expressed to you what we're seeing and statistically significant patterns, and you told me there's just not enough data yet. But you
Yes.
said, if you believe it's true, don't ever give up. And now we're
Yep.
here, and we get to have people also like Dr. Cindy Russell and other people, doing a great job summarizing the work out there, and your work on oxidative stress, which is the mechanism of action.
Yes.
And it's just, to me, it's just like perfect timing that we hung in there when you're the tip of the spear and people are feeling this. And there are a lot of practitioners were just saying they just have anxiety. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, or agitation, or they just,
Well,
go ahead.
8 years ago when we discovered this, when we all read the manuscript, I remember saying to you, I'll never forget this, Dr. Prasad, standing there looking out my window at my office and talking to you about this dream that I had of a husband and wife sitting on the couch with their cell phones beside them, their laptops on their lap, watching the big screen TV and researching infertility. And I'll never forget what you said.
Yeah.
When you said, do you think, because we know, and this is really important, I want you all to hear this, that for a man, a half an hour with a laptop on their lap will kill 25% of their sperm. But we recreate sperm, but women don't. And you said to me, do you think that the delicate DNA structure of the egg could be affected as well?
Of course, because they don't, like you said, they are fixed number. They're right at birth. So
but now, 8 years later, Dr. Prasad, we're seeing this generationally.
Mhm.
So not only are the mother's eggs damaged, but the mother's unborn female eggs are also damaged, or can be damaged. So now we're seeing this infertility rate that you and I talked about 8 years ago coming to fruition.
Yeah.
And then 3 years ago, when we spoke at the Oregon Convention, we had a talk about what we had been seeing over the last 5 years. And I guess we inspired you.
Definitely. I mean, and I think, again, you can protect your ovary by just simple procedure that you recommended, and therefore it will reduce the chance. And I always, for example, my grandchild, she make sure she has gummy always in her hand, and so at least part of them she gets protected. But she never does like we were talking about it, but she always does, typing.
I was talking to a girl just yesterday about severe migraines, and I went and started discussing when she started having this electrical environment in her room. And we're going to talk more about this.
Okay.
But it was about the age of 12 when she had a computer and a television and a stereo. And then, she was on that from 12 on, and now she has constant migraines. And I said to her, as I was talking to her about, her total electrical environment, I said, so boys carry their phones in their front pockets, girls carry them in their back pockets. Which pocket do you carry it in? And she said, the right pocket. And then she went, I have ovarian cysts on the right side. Do you think it has anything to do with this? And I said, well, every time you get a notification bell, you get a blast of 2.4 gigahertz. And so we have a lot to do, a lot to talk about in the next few talks that we have about hygiene, cellular hygiene, our environmental hygiene, and the things that we can do.
Control it,
not only for EMF, but for our gut and for our skin, because that is our biggest line of defense as well with the collagen products. So
Mm-hmm. Well, let's recap some of the symptoms, because for some of you on here, you may have just went, I didn't even know what EMF radiation was. So we covered a lot of information in this 1 hour, but you now know that, and that also that their awareness that it's a growing body of population, over 30%, that have symptoms from their electrical field, electrical environment. But Dr. Prasad, there are many stressors. It could be heavy metals. It could be pesticides. There are a lot of things that cause stress on our body. Smoking, and you did a lot of work on that. You're an expert on a lot of those stressors. But I think what we're talking about tonight is really the elephant in the room. That the one thing that it really is the sea of EMF radiation around us that we cannot control, but we can protect ourselves from the inside out, and the ones we love, our children, and you know what, even our pets. Like we have a service dog, and so we can give him the original formula to protect them from the ionizing radiation.
Exactly. And actually, you mentioned it, for example, herbicide or heavy metal, they are exposed once in a while, a small population, if you're a farmer or something, but this is the whole population is being exposed to. So this is a much more serious problem than the environmental other form of toxin. Air pollution is also important, but that's a regional issue. And this is not worldwide, because many countries doesn't have as much as we have.
It is worldwide. It's ubiquitous in the world.
Yeah, but many countries don't have as much exposure. Like for example, many countries in Africa or South America, maybe city have it, but rural area doesn't have it as much exposure. But at least in the Western country, Europe, you can say, and us and China. I mean, India too, because India has every place now, they have all these kind of things. So that takes you the most of the world population.
We're definitely becoming more connected, though. I spoke with somebody today about 13 other countries, in Saudi Arabia and Dubai, and a lot of those people.
Those countries, they do. Those countries too, they are it's very high level, but question, maybe I should write a book on that. No, just kidding.
I think that's a great idea. Where do we not have cell phones? And we should start to do some research on.
And how you can protect, like you mentioned, some of the simple things you can do it, but I don't know.
We'll talk a lot about that, and we'd be happy to help you in writing that book on.
Let me finish this one first.
Strategies.
Because EMF radiation has such an environmental toxin, and such a wide exposure, that somebody has to write for a public. Scientists have written enough, but for public. But I don't know as much Dr. Coates and Jeanette, but I have to read a lot also. So right now, I would say that maybe I can start in January after my birthday, 89th birthday. So I will complete by the age of 90.
There you go.
So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Prasad, for your work. And we're wrapping up on the hour. And I know everyone's just going, yes, we do have 2 more segments, that we're going to dive in a little deeper. The next segment will be on testimonials and case studies and really getting to see the resilience. And we know that people
on
here that feel like they don't have any hope. Or let's say they have symptoms of what? Anxiety, agitation.
Depression. I mean, that's especially teenager right now.
Especially.
They're much more higher level than ever before. All these things happen. And so I think it will be very important to even, at least to their parent message, that it is all right, just minimize it and take some appropriate supplement to reduce.
So our number one goal was awareness. And so we've come a long ways in 8 years, Dr. Prasad.
Aware of first, Oh yeah, definitely. And
number 2
goes to you too.
Number 2, there is no governmental oversight. And having my graduate work in environmental science and policy, I am really shocked, when you look at all the laws and regulations I had to cover for all environmental chemicals, and there's nobody overseeing the FCC. Originally, it was just for bans, of wavelengths. So that is why there's a current lawsuit, because there isn't a safety standard for our children. There isn't a safety standard, for us. And so, awareness, and then there's no oversight. But there are strategies that you can protect you, your family, and your pets from the inside out from Dr. Prasad's work. So you can actually get to see this on Team Serve, 2 words, Team Serve, on YouTube, so that the replay will be there. And then also, Dr. Court, I think it's really important that there's hope for everybody on here. If you are suffering from any of those symptoms that Dr. Cindy Russell said or that we talked about, you need to get back with the person that got you on this call.
Please get back with the person.
And say, I want to get started. And whether they're a child or a senior, they really can get better, and it's safe. There are no medication contraindications. So with that, you want to close this out?
Well, I want to say that we had a worker. We faded out again. We had a worker that came by today who was a veteran and did 2 tours in Afghanistan. And I showed him this box, and he's like, "That's incredible." And I made left with product, and he's gonna get on the product. So
Thank you to all the veterans on the call.
thank you to all the
families.
veterans. We have so much that we're going to cover in the next miss it, and you are going to want to invite 10 people each, because this is going to be life-changing.
It is.
This is just the icing on the cake. I promise you, we are going to bring the gauntlet down on this, and we are going to give you lots of strategies to protect you, your family, your loved ones, and those, not that you know, but those that you see, because every single person you see has devices that are affecting their bodies, and we can't get away from it, but we do have solutions.
We do.
With that, Dr. Prasad, we're so grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Everyone, have a great night and be well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Let's go!
Awesome.
Excellent.
Very
Excellent.
grateful.
Thank you all. That was very nice.
Great information.
Very impressive.
Yes.
Dr. Prasad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Great
much.
information. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Powerful. Thank you.
Let's go!
Thank you.